Hi everyone, my name is Shrikant. Today we are going to learn about approval process in Salesforce with real-time scenarios. By end of this video, you will be able to understand what is approval process and how to create that in Salesforce with real-time scenarios. By that, you will be able to decide when to choose approval process for any given requirement. And we'll also see what are the different ways to call approval process. Okay, let's understand what is approval process. Hey, hi. I am in trouble. I need to implement leave approval management system in Salesforce. I don't know how to code. Please help. Okay, let's take his problem as an example. So he is asking for leave approval management in Salesforce. Okay, what is leave approval management system? So let's say we have two employees. One is employee Scott and the other one is manager Alina. So whenever employee Scott raises a leave request, it will go to manager Alina and it is her call to either accept or reject the leave request. Now, how to implement this in Salesforce? That's what I want. How to create approval process for leave management. It's really easy in Salesforce. Let's dig in. To create approval process for leave requests in Salesforce, we need to have an object which should create leave request, right? So I have created leave request object. So this is my system admin and this is my org which is having system admin credentials. Okay. Now this is my leave request object. So I will just show you the fields. So people whoever wants to do along with me, just create this object, leave request object, and it should be having 4 or 5 fields here. So leave type, which is a pick list, which will store either it's a sick leave or a casual leave, and start date, end date, and reason for leave, why you're taking leave, and there is an approval status, which is having new, submit for approval, approved, and reject. Okay, so just create these 5 fields. So we have an object, we have fields. Does that mean we are ready for approval process? No, not yet. We still need to see what are the users who needs to be part of this approval process. So I'll just cancel this. So we are having leave request object, we have fields. Now we'll go ahead and see the users. So click on setup and it should open the find box and search for users here and click on users. I have already created 2 users. As I have shown you previously, there are 2 users. One is Alina, manager, and the other one is Scott, who is an employee. So Scott will raise leave requests. He creates leave requests which should be sent approval to Alina. So Alina should be approving it or rejecting it based on the reasons she is saying. Now we have the leave object and we also have the employees. Are we ready for approval process? Yes. Now we can go ahead and create the approval process. So to create approval process, the first step is just search for approval process and click on it. Now we are in this approval section. Here first you need to select the object. So it's already selected, but you can just see and then select your object there. Now here you need to click on this button, create new approval process. If you click on it, it shows 2 options. One is Jumpstart Wizard, second one is Standard Setup Wizard. So Jumpstart Wizard will be having few options so that you can directly create an approval process. Standard Setup will be having all the options where you can configure everything to create an approval process. Now we'll go ahead with the longest process, which is Standard Setup, and click on Wizard. Here you just need to give a name. So I will just give an employee approval process, and then unique name will be automatically populated. You can give description or click on next. Here you need to give the criteria. What is this criteria? So criteria is something, what are the leave requests that are eligible to send them to the approval. So in our case, I want all of the leave requests to send it for approval. So if it is all the records, you don't need to select any option and you can click on next. Here you need to select the approver. So whenever you send for approval, it should go to some manager, right? Some approver who needs to approve a request. So that is determined by here. So it's just an option. I will explain it to you better. But here in this case, just select for manager. Okay. And click on next. So this is about notification template. Leave this default as is and click on next. And this is about page layout. Don't worry about it. I will explain it to you better in the later stages. Click on next. And here also the same thing. Click on save. And we have our approval process ready. Just click on I will do it later and click on go. Now we have our approval process ready, but it is in inactive state. If you see, this is the employee approval process. These are my test approval process, but this is our approval process which we just created. If you see, this is the name I have given. Entry criteria is empty. Rest of the values, don't worry. I will explain it to you better. Now it has multiple sections. What are these? So it says initial submission actions, approval steps, final approval actions, rejections. What is this? Don't worry. Now our next step is to create an approval step. What is this approval step? On what basis and to whom approval should go has to be decided by this approval step. So I will create an approval step, new approval step. So give some name saying that you can give some name. So I will just give as step 1 and then unique name will be automatically populated. Click on next. Now it says all records should enter this step. So as I said, all records has to come into this approval. So I want all the records to enter this step and click on next. Now it says to whom it should go. So if you see automatically assign using this user field selected earlier manager. So whenever a record is created and submitted for approval, it should go to his or her manager. That is the option we have selected. So for employee Scott, his manager is Alina. So it should go to Alina. That's what this step means. So now we'll click on save. And don't worry about anything else. Just click on this and I will click on go. So now we have our approval process ready. Our first approval process is ready and we have an approval step where it says it should go to manager. And this is the basic template of any approval process. So it is inactive state, but we'll make it active and we'll see how this works. Okay. And yay, our first approval process is active and ready to rock and roll. You created approval process, but how will I configure Elena as manager for Scott? QBoy is right. We have created the approval process and employee Scott is ready to create a record and then send it to approval to manager Elena. But how will Salesforce know Elena is manager of Scott? We need to configure it somewhere, right? So that somewhere is called user record. So we'll go to users and we'll try to configure manager Elena to Scott. So to do that, we need to go to Scott record. So click on Scott record and you should be seeing an edit button there. Click on edit button and then scroll down. You should be seeing something called manager lookup. See, this is the manager lookup. So for employee record Scott, if you scroll down and give manager as Elena, then manager Elena will become superior to Scott. So whenever employee Scott raises a request in Salesforce and then submit for approval, then it will go to Elena. That is something which we will test. Okay, now we'll log in with employee Scott and manager Elena. We'll raise a request from employee Scott and we'll see whether manager Elena can see it so that she can approve it. So I already logged in with Scott in one of my browser where this is employee Scott. Okay. Whenever you have doubt, just see on the top with which user we have logged in. So here you see the leave request page where he can request for leave. So I will click on new and I will give leave type as sick leave and sick date from 17 to I will ask for maybe 2 weeks. And I am suffering from latest sensation corona. Okay. So and I will click on save. So I have a leave request now, which it is ready to submit for approval. So if you see there is a button submit for approval. So this button lets you to send it for approval. If you don't see this button, you need to go to the page layouts or lightning page layout and then add this button into your lightning buttons. Okay. Now I will click on this submit for approval button. Click on it and give some comments. Kindly accept my leave and then click on submit. So now Scott has submitted this request for approval. So as soon as he submitted, that button has been disappeared. Now we'll go and log in with manager Elena and in this browser I have logged in with manager Elena. Okay. If you see there is a notification which says one here and if you see it says employee Scott is requesting leave approval for leave request which is LR0013. Let's see if it's the same number. So LR0013. Okay. Now I will go back here. It says Scott has requested for approval and rest of the other values are for my testing purpose. This is the one which he has sent for approval. Okay. So for now I will click on this so that it will allow me to go to that approval request where I can approve or reject or I can reassign. So if you see it says who has submitted it, when he has submitted it, who is the approver and to him it is assigned. So it says leave request number and it says who is the owner and it also gave the submitted comments. Clear? One more thing, whenever user submits a request for approval, Approver will automatically receive an email something like this. See, if you see here, employee Scott has requested your approval for following item, and if you click on this, it will navigate to the respective leave request record. There you can click on approve or rejected. Hey, as an approver, Alina couldn't see primary fields of leave request to approve. Yeah, he is right. So we cannot actually see any details about the leave, like type of leave, whether it is sick leave or casual leave, or from which date to which date, or what is the reason of the leave. We couldn't see any details from here, right? We should be able to see it. If you click on this leave request number, we should be able to see it because it's a link to that particular leave request record. But still, we should be able to see that here itself. How to do that? So I will go to sysadmin and we'll see how can we configure that. So I will go to approval process again and I will go and edit few things. So click on approval process and we should be seeing our approval process. We should be seeing our approval process down here and we'll click on edit. So this is our approval process. So you remember for these steps we have given we did not give any conditions, and later we have given the manager, and later steps I asked you to leave all the values as default as is, right? But now these values are useful here. So we need to give something. So in this fifth step it says select the fields to display on the approval page layout. Which page layout? It is talking about this page layout for the manager. So this is the approval request page layout. So what needs to be displayed is decided in this step. So before we just given the default and then send it. So we have only two fields to display. That's the reason it is displaying only request number and owner. Now along with these two, we need to add the other important fields, which are end date and start date and leave type and reason for leave. Okay. So start should be here and then click on save. So now we have configured it in the approval process. Even though it's an active state, we were able to do that step. Okay. Now we'll see whether it has been reflected properly to manager Alina. Now click on refresh and we'll see whether it has impacted properly or not. And hola. So we have all the details. By seeing all these details, now it is manager's Alina's call to either approve it or reject it. By seeing this reason, if I were manager Alina, I will definitely approve it. So I will click on approve and I will say enjoy your corona and I click on approve. So this has been approved. Scenario 2. You created approval process, but how employee knows approval is submitted? Yes, you're right. There should be a way. Let's say employee Scott has created a leave request to manager Elena, and there should be some way that he should be knowing his leave request has been sent to approval. So let's say if we can change the status of that leave to approval submitted, so that on the leave record he can see it is approval submitted. And let's say we also will send an acknowledge email to employee saying that, hey Scott, your leave request have been sent to manager Elena. I think that should do, right? We can do that in Salesforce approval process. Okay, but where and how? We have initial submission actions in Salesforce approval process. So when a record is submitted for approval, then if you want to do some actions like field update, which is like changing of status to approval submitted, and we'll also send an emails to employee, which we call it as email alerts. Then this will obviously help employee understand that his requests have been submitted for approval. So we'll use initial submission action for this purpose. Okay, now we'll create a leave request again and we'll see what Cuba is asking here. Now we'll select a leave type sick leave again and start date to so and so date 18 and then date to 19 and then leave the reason and then click on save. So he has created a leave request and we'll try to submit it for approval and tick and then click on submit. So a leave request have been submitted, but this guy doesn't have any idea whether that leave request sent it to the approval. So what we'll try to do is we'll change this approval status to approval submitted, and we'll also make an email to receive for email Scott saying that, hey, an email sent it to you. Now how to do that? So for that we'll go back to our approval process, and in here you should be seeing something called initial submission actions. Whenever user submits a request to the approver, if you want to do some actions, this is your playground. So here we can have a field update which will update the approval status to approval submitted. So add new. So here we need to do a field update. Click on field update. So here I will just make it as update approval status. and you nickname this, and then it will ask which field to update. So which field I need to update? I need to update approval status field. And to what it should get updated? It should get updated to submitted for approval, and then click on save. Okay. So this says whenever user submitted for approval, change the approval status to submitted for approval. Not only updating the field, we'll try to send an email also. To send the emails, we should be having email templates. That is something which we'll create now. Okay. So search for email templates and create one. Click here, click on new template, and then click on next and give some value here, available for use, request submitted, and here we'll just give your leave request submitted for approval. Okay, and click here, copy here, and then click on save. Now we have our email template ready. Okay, now we'll try to go here and then click add new, another new submission action. Whenever it is submitted, we are changing the status to submitted for approval, and we'll also send an email alert. So click the email alert. So it says send email to and unique name, give email template, the email template which we have just created, which is request submitted. Okay, and to which user it should go. So we need to select the record creator. So we'll select the record creator. When whoever created the leave request, he is the recipient of this email. So whenever he creates a leave request and submit it for approval, that email saying that your request have been submitted will come to this record creator. So additional emails is not required. Click on save. So now approval process says whenever a request has been submitted for approval, then change this field status of approval status to submitted for approval and send an email to the requester in the sense record creator here. Okay, now this is in active state. We'll just try to test whether it is working properly or not. Now we'll go here, which is employee Scott record. We'll create a new request, click on new again, and then leave type is equal to sick leave again, and start date is equal to so and so 27, and it is equal to 28, and reason for is equal to something, and click on save. Approval status will not change yet. It will get changed only when you click on submit for approval. Once it is submitted for approval, then initial submission actions will take place and approval status changes to approval submitted for approval. So we have our status changed. Now we'll see whether this requester has received an email saying that his requests have been sent for approval or not. If you see, there is something called your leave request submitted for approval. So if you come here and it says your leave requests have been submitted for approval. Okay, here this is the main subject and this is the body. Okay, this is how you can configure initial submission actions. Scenario 3. Nice, but how employee knows his request is approved? Let's say employee Scott has raised a leave request to manager Elena. She's so nice, she immediately approved. Then if we can send an email to Scott saying that it is approved and we'll update the leave status to approved. That should do, right? Okay, but where and how? We have something called approval actions. Whenever a record is approved from approval process, then if you want to do some actions like changing of status to approved, and if you want to send emails to employee saying that hey Scott, your leave request have been approved, so that he can start enjoying. In this case, we will use approval actions. Okay, then how to do it? That's what I am for. Let's go. This is very similar to the previous scenario, except that we need to have the approval status to approved and send an email to requester saying that his requests have been approved. But before it was initial submission actions, now it should be final approval actions. So if you see, the both related lists are very much same, except you need to create these new actions, field update and email alert here also. How to create? It's very much same approach, same drill. Click on field update, and then in here we just need to make it as request approved and select the field which is approval status, and we need to change the status to specific value which is approved, and click on save. Our field update is ready, which says whenever the approval step has been approved, change the approval status to approved. Now, along with that, we also need to send an email. So again, we need to have an email template. We'll just create one again. Click on email templates and click on new template, and request approved is the name. Click on next. Sorry. Click on next, and in here available for use, request approved, and give some name, and in body will just say your request approved, enjoy, and same thing here. Click on save. Okay, now we have our template ready. Let's go and create a new email alert under approval actions, and click on add new and click on email alert, and we need to select request approved email, and we just need to select the template. So this is very much same as the previous step, so I'm just going quickly, and you need to select the creator, whoever is creating the leave request and submitted for request. He needs to receive the email, and leave the default values and click on save. So now we have our approval process ready with the approval actions as well, which says whenever this particular record has been approved, then we need to send an email alert to the requester saying that his requests have been approved, and we also need to see that as approved. Now we'll see whether it is working properly or not. It's in active state, so obviously we'll go here. So this is a leave request, right? So which has been submitted for approval. Now we'll go and see with manager Alina, and then we'll try to accept this request. Okay. Now we'll go here. So this is manager Alina. If you see there are two requests, we'll take the latest request, which is LR0015. Click on it. So these are the details which say start date and date, sick leave. We'll just click on approve. Okay, approve, and click on approve. Now this particular request have been approved. See, now we'll see whether that status has changed in the first place. Go to employee Scott. So this is employee Scott. We'll just refresh this page to see whether it has been impacted or not. See, the status changed to approved. Now we'll see the email, whether we received the email or not. So go to emails. See, your request approved, enjoy. This is what we have received an email. Scenario 4. Okay, but how employee knows his request is rejected by manager? This is very similar to the previous scenario, except this is a rejected case. Let's say employee Scott raises a leave request for sick leave next month, then obviously manager Alina will get angry, thinking how can a person raises a sick leave for future, and then obviously will reject the leave request. Then we can inform Scott via email saying that hey Scott, your leave has been rejected. Why? Because you're too smart to send a sick leave for next month, and we can also update the leave request to rejected. The question is where and how. We have something called rejection actions in approval process. Whenever a record is rejected from approval process, then if we want to do some actions like changing of status rejected, and if we want to send emails to employee saying that hey Scott, your leave request have been rejected, so that he can start cursing his boss. Obviously that's not good. If you have observed, this is also same process, except this will come under final rejection actions. Earlier we did the same for approval actions, and before we have get done for submission actions. Okay, we'll try to do it for final rejection actions also. We'll try to change the status to rejected. We'll create a field update, and then we'll make it as request rejected, and then unique name, and then in field to update we'll select the approval status and change the status to rejected and click on save. Okay, now we have our approval process ready with rejection status field update. This says whenever a record has been rejected because of this approval process, then change the status to rejected. Okay, we can also have the email alert, but as we have already seen in previous two related lists, I will just leave it as is. You try it by yourself. Okay, now we'll test this out. So go here, and then we'll try to create a new request from employee Scott, new, and then just create a quick leave request, sick leave, start date 28, end date 30, and click on save. Okay, Now we need to submit this for approval. Okay, click on submit for approval. Give some test and then click on submit. So requests have been submitted for approval. If you go to Manager Alina's login credentials, we should be seeing a new notification. So this is the leave request that Scott has raised. You can also click from here, or you can also go to approval request tab. So that is something which we'll learn new. So if you see, there is something called approval requests. This tab will have all the requests that are being sent to you. So in here, this is the latest request that employee Scott recently raised. We'll click on this and we'll reject this, and we'll see whether the status changes or not. I'll click on reject, rejecting it as your sick leave dates are in future, and click on reject. So these requests have been rejected. We'll go here and then see whether this has been rejected or not. See, approval status has been changed to rejected. So you can also try to send email alert saying that your requests have been rejected. Okay. Scenario 5. Oh no, I want to do some changes to the record once I submit it for approval. Big no, you cannot do any changes once you submit the record for approval. Why? Because you can do any kind of changes. Let's say you have applied for 2 leaves, and then once it is went for approval or it has been approved, if you change it for 5 days, that doesn't work, that should not work. That is the reason it will be locked. However, you can recall your record from approval steps, and then you can edit it and then you can submit it again. Okay. Recalling the record from approval, nice feature. How do I do that? If you see in the initial submitted action, there is a record log which says log the record from being edited. Whenever a record is submitted for approval, this will be automatically logged, and this is a standard Salesforce feature, which means you cannot change anything once you submit for approval. But what if you want to change it? We have something called a recall option, recalling of the record. If you see here, it has mentioned allow submitters to recall the approval request. So when I have created this approval process, I made all the values to default, right? The last 4 steps. So the last step is having this particular action to recall it. So 5th step and 6th step, if you scroll down, you see submission settings, allow submitters to recall the approval request. Select it and click on save, and we'll see whether it is working properly or not. Now we will create a leave request and we'll submit for approval, and we'll try to recall it. So click on sick leave and select some date and then click on save. Okay. Now if you see, the record is editable for you. You can change the date before you can submit it. We haven't submitted it yet, but this is editable before you can submit it. Now I will click on submit for approval and click on submit. And if you see, status changed. Now let's try to edit it now. And then click on save. It should give you an error saying that this record is locked. You cannot edit it. Why? Because it has been locked by Salesforce. Now if you want to do any changes, you can recall it. You need to go to related list, and if you see, there is a recall button. Click on recall, recalling because I entered wrong values, and click on recall. Now this record will be recalled, and if you click on details, you're ready to change the values 14 to 21 and then click on save, and this is how you can recall and change your values. If you have observed, like initial submission actions, approval actions and rejection actions, on recall also you can have your field update and email alert. You can change the status to recall, something like that, or you can send the email alert to the requester or approver. Scenario 6. How can they resubmit the approval after they do the necessary changes after recalling or rejection from the manager? It's really easy. Click on submit for approval button again. Once leave requests have been recalled, again submit for approval button will be enabled. You can just click on it and then click on submit. It will do as is. Scenario 7. What if approver is on leave and not available to approve my leave requests? How to resolve this? Yeah, this is a very common scenario. Whenever you try to apply some leaves, what if your manager himself or herself not available to approve leave requests? Then what should I do? Don't worry, we have something called delegation option in approval process. This delegation options helps some other person to do the approval whenever the actual approver is not available. What? I will explain. So let's say employee Scott
has raised a request to Alina, and Alina is sick and she cannot come to office on that day, then we can have a delegated person, in this case Vice President Chris. He comes like, wife, here I am here and I can work as a delegated approver, and he can approve or reject any request coming to Alina. Now the question is, how do I configure Vice President Chris as a delegated approver for Alina so that he can take all the requests coming to Alina? Now, as Alina is on leave, we'll try to create a new user and we'll try to delegate that user to Alina, so that request coming to Alina should be also visible to that new user. So I already created another user called Vice President Chris, and I wanted to make this user as a delegated approver for Alina. How do we do that? Every user record will be having a field called delegated approver. So it should be somewhere down here. You see, on top of manager, you should be seeing delegated approver. Manager is basically kind of line manager. Delegated approver is someone who can take the approval request or the leave request to be approved on behalf of her. So I will just click here and I will search for Vice President Chris. Yeah. And then I will click on save. So by adding this to a delegated user, delegated approver value, it doesn't end there. This change itself is not enough. So every approval process will also say that whether delegation has to work or not. In the approval process, in the approval step, you should be seeing that delegation option to be applied or not. So I will click on next and next. In here, it says the approver's delegate may also approve the request. So until and unless you apply this value to step, delegation will not work. Even though you add it in the user record, that is not enough. Adding in the approval step, not the approval process. It is approval step in the approval process. So in the third step, you should be seeing this value. You just click on it and click on save. Now we are good to go with delegation. So Chris, or Vice President Chris, is a delegated approver for manager Elena. Now we will log in with employee Scott and we'll see if this is our employee Scott credentials, and we'll try to create a new request and then we'll try to submit it. So as per this approval process, this should go to manager Elena, and we also given Chris as a delegated approver. It should also be seen by him to approve it or reject it. So we have the leave request. We are yet to submit for approval. So click on submit for approval, click on submit. And if you see, it says submit for approval. If you see the related list of the approval history, it says pending status. It is with the manager Elena. That doesn't mean it is only with manager Elena. Even the delegated approver can also do it. Now I logged in with Chris also, and we'll see whether it is applied or not. So this leave request is LR0021. We'll go ahead and check it here. So this will not be displayed either in notifications or an approval request. It will only, he needs to go to the leave request record, so which is LR0021, and then he should be able to approve it. See, we'll go to related list and we should be seeing approve or reject button. If he is not a delegated approver, these buttons will not appear. I will just click on approve and then give some comments. Approved on behalf of Alina, and click on approve. So we have this leave request approved. We'll see whether it is reflected properly in employee Scott record. So click on details and refresh the page, and you should be seeing this approval status. See, this is how you can use a delegated approver for doing this delegation. So there are two things. One, on user record, you need to add the delegated approver, and two, on the approval step. Scenario 8. Let's say if we have leaves more than 10 days, we want that request to be approved by just not Elena, and it should also go to Vice President Chris. Let's say employee Scott raised 10 days leave request to manager Elena, and let's say Elena also approves it, then it will go for second level approval to Chris. Let's say if Chris also approves, then request will be approved. If Chris doesn't approve, request will be rejected even though Alino accepted it, because it is a multi-step or multi-level approval needed. Not just one. Every user who is satisfying with this criteria will have to approve it. This should happen only when requested days is more than or equal to 10 days. What if it is less than 10 days? Let's say Scott raises only 3 days of leave. So in this case, approval doesn't need to go to Chris. Let's say manager Alina approves it, it will immediately go for approval. Why? Because it is just 10 days leave request. So we need to bug Vice President only if a resource is taking more than 10 days. In that case, if Alina approves it, it will automatically send a response to Scott saying that, hey Scott, you can enjoy your 3 days leave. As simple as that. If it is more than 10 days, only then it needs another level of approval. As easy as that. Now the question is how we can have this multi-level approval based on the requested days. Before we go ahead and implement this scenario, we need to remove the delegated option for manager Elena, okay? Because this is not necessary. So click on save, and we need to make this approval process inactive because we'll try to create a new one as this current approval process doesn't serve our purpose, okay? Click on approval process. Now we'll try to create a new approval process, and if you see all of them are inactive state, we'll try to create a new approval process. We'll try to make it as multi-step process demo, and we'll click on next. Here we want all the leave requests to come into this approval process, so we don't want this to be there. So we'll just click on next, and in here we'll select manager, and in the next step we'll leave the default as is, and in next step this is a page load where approval will see details about the leave request. So we'll just add all of them and click on next, and this you can leave defaults as is, or you can make to have a recall option, and click on save. Now we have our approval process ready, and so in multi-step process demo we have all the details, and we need to add the approval steps. So what are these approval steps? As we have discussed before, this is where we need to decide to whom it should go, on what basis. So if the leaves are greater than 1, it should go to Alina. If the leaves are greater than 10, it should go to Alina and Chris. It should be to both, one to Alina and to Chris also. So it's like if leaves are greater than 1, go to Alina for approval, okay, and click on next. And in these conditions you need to give some condition, right? So on what basis? If leaves are greater than 1, so you need to create a formula. So how do you find number of leaves taken? We'll just subtract end date minus start date. So end date, and click on and start date. Yeah, end date minus start date should be greater than 1. Only then it should go to Alina, okay? Click on next. Now it will ask either it should go to manager, or you can also explicitly give the name. So I will explicitly give the name as Alina, and click on. So to whom it should go for approval. So manager Alina is the approver, and I'm clicking on save. So this created an approval step saying that if leaves are greater than 10, which is like end date minus start date greater than 1, it should go to manager Alina. If it is less than equal to 1, it will automatically gets approved. There is no need of sending it for approval if it is just 1 day. That's what it means. Okay. Now this is for one step, but it should also go to Chris if the leaves are greater than 10. It should go to Alina first, and it should also go to Chris if the leaves are greater than 10. Okay. Now new approval step. Now I will make it as if leaves are greater than 10, then go to Chris for approval. Okay. Now click on next, and you can give the condition same as before. Second, just copy paste this. So I will just make it formula first. You can also make the criteria, but formula is very easy in this case. Send days minus start date greater than 1, right? I will make it as greater than 10. That should do, right? Greater than 10. If the leaves are greater than 10, then it should go to Chris as well. So click on next, and you need to select the approver. So the approver should be Chris, and look up, yeah, and click on save. Now we have our second step also ready. Okay. Now we'll just review what we have done so far. Cancel. I did click on yes. Now we have our step study. What it says, if leaves are greater than 1, which means either it is 2 or 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 days also, it's greater than 1. So any number of leaves greater than 1 will go to Alina first. Then if it is greater than 10, it should also go to Chris. That's what it means. So if it is greater than 10, it will go to Alina first and will come back to Chris. If it is less than 10 and greater than 1, then obviously it will go to just Alina. If she approves it, it will accept. Okay. In case if it is greater than 10, it should go also to Chris, and he also needs to approve it to approve the leave request. Both of them has to approve it. Now you can also add initial submission actions that we did earlier, or you can also add final approval actions, rejection actions, something like that. So for now I will activate this and we'll test it out. So click on OK. Now we have our approval process ready. Now we will test it. So we'll go back to leave requests. So this is, I logged in with employee Scott. Now I'll create a new leave request. So click on new. So here I will create a sick leave and I will give start date as 17, end date as 31st, which will be like 2 weeks, which is greater than 10 days. Now I'll click on submit. Submit for approval. Okay. And click on submit. Now I submitted this leave request for approval. As this is greater than 10 days, Alina needs to approve it, and even Chris also should needs to approve it. Okay. Now if you see, I logged in with manager Alina and notifications, I should be seeing this new leave request. If I open that leave request, I should be able to approve it. Okay. So currently these are the details about that leave request. I will click on approve and click on approve. So Alina approved it, but still that status will be in pending state. Why? Because as number of leaves are greater than 10, even Chris has to approve it. Now we'll go to Chris credentials, which is Chris, and we'll click on notification. He should be seeing the same leave request. Click on it and he should approve it. If he approves it, this will get approved. If he rejects it, then this will get rejected. In this case, as Chris is a very nice vice president, he will approve it and click on approve. See, this has been approved. So this is how multi-step will work. Let's see if employee Scott has raised the leaves number of leaves less than 10, then we'll see how that works. So number of leaves, I will create a sick leave again and date from 17. I will just give it as just 3 or 4 days, maybe till 20. So 17 to 20, it makes just 4 days. So click on save and he will submit it for leave request. Submit and click on submit. So employee Scott has raised a new leave request with 4 days. Now we'll go to Alina's credentials, which is Alina's credentials, and she should be seeing a new notification. Click on that notification. As number of leaves are less than 10, if she approves it, this should get approved. See, it didn't even go to Chris. Why? Because the number of leaves are less. That is how you can decide. Multi-step. Scenario 9. If leave days are less than 3, manager Elena has to approve. If leave days are greater than 3, then vice president Chris has to approve. If you see, this is slightly different with the previous version. How? Let's say if Scott raises less than or equal to 3 days request, it should go to manager Elena. If Elena approves, leave will be approved, else it will be rejected. If he rises more than 3 days, let's say if he rises around 10 days leave request, instead of it goes to Alina, it should directly go to vice president. And here, if Chris approves, then leave will be approved, else it will be rejected. So this is of a 2 different levels. There it is like one level manager Alina has to approve, only then it has to go to Chris. Here it should either go to manager Alina or it should go to Chris, not to both. In order to implement this scenario, we need to deactivate and clone this approval process again. Why? Because current approval process, we cannot do much modifications on it. So click on clone and make it as demo2 and demo2 here, and then click on save. Once you clone it, automatically all the steps and all the configurations that you have done on that previous approval process will come into picture here. See? The same things and even the same steps. But in here we need to change the step conditions. If the number of leaves are less than 3, only then it should go to Alina. If it is greater than 3, it should go to Chris. It should not go to both. Either it has to go to manager Alina or it should go to Chris. So we'll change the steps accordingly. So we'll click on edit, and in here, so I will make it as if leaves are less than 3, then go to Alina. Okay, and then I will click on next. I need to change the conditions, right? So less than 3 is my condition. And before going to clicking on save, if this formula doesn't satisfy, if the leaves are greater than 3, then it should go to the next criteria. It should not approve if this condition doesn't satisfy. So I need to make it as go to next step. This is really important. If this condition doesn't satisfy, it should go to next step. That's what it means. Now click on save. Now we will change the second step here. So step 2 will change it as if the leaves are greater than 3, go to Chris. Okay. And I will click on next and I will change the conditions as well. Here it should be greater than 3. It should be greater than or equal to 3, but I will make it as greater than 3. I will click on save. So basically what this approval step says is if the leaves are less than 3, it should go to Alina. If else, it should go to next step. So if it is greater than 3, then it will come here and it will check the condition. If the condition satisfies, it will go to approval for Chris. Okay. Now as the conditions are satisfied, either it will go to this condition or this condition based on the number of leaves. Now I will click on activate and we are good to go to test. Now we'll log in with employee Scott and we'll create a new leave request. So click on new. Here I will give type as sick leave and start date is equal to 17. End date I will just give it as 18. Okay. And I will click on save. Now it will check the conditions. As 17 and 18 we have less than 3 days. Then obviously it should go to Alina. So I'll click on submit for approval and click on submit. Now this approval should go only to Alina. So I will just go and log in with manager Alina and I should be seeing notification. See, this is the notification where date is from 17 to 18. I will just approve it. If it rejects, it will get rejected. So approve and click on approve. See, it got approved. Now we'll try to create a case with number of leaves greater than 3 days, which is like 5 to 6 days. Click on leave request. Leave type is equal to casual leave. Start date is equal to 18. And date is equal to somewhere around 13, which makes it 2 weeks. Greater than 3 days, obviously. Click on save. And now we have leave request ready. We'll click on submit for approval and click on submit. Now this request should go to Chris. So if you see it goes to Chris, we'll just log in with Chris and then we will see whether we got this. So this is Chris credentials. Click here. So this is the latest record. Click on it. This is from 18th to 31. So this is in pending state. I will click on approve and click on approve. So now this request have been approved. So this is how you can make multi-step in different ways. Either it has to go to Alina or Chris. Scenario 10. If leave is applied, I want it to go for approval to a team. If one of them approves, it should get approved. Team in the sense list of users. If it goes to list of users, then if one of them approves it, it should get automatically approved. Let's say you raise a expense request to some team, and then that financial team, one of them in the financial team can approve it, so that it will be approved. Not everyone has to approve it. Let's say employee Scott has created 3 days leave request to the team. Here we have the team where manager Alina and vice president Chris are part of it. In this case, approval goes to both Alina and Chris. If Alina sees that record, she can see approve and reject button. Same with Chris, he can also see approve and reject button. If let's say Alina goes first and approves the request, then leave will be approved. If Chris has approved it before Alina does, then even in this case, we can have that request can be approved. But whenever we have multiple users to approve for a leave request, we can choose 2 options. So here one is unanimous, which means all users must approve. In this case, if you select this option when you select this multi-users, if you select this unanimous, whenever you raise a leave request, it has to be approved by both manager Alina and it should also approved by vice president Chris. So let's say manager Alina approves first, it will be still showing as pending. And even if vice president sees it and if he approves it, only then that leave request will be approved, else it will be rejected. So this is what unanimous means. And we have the second option where one of them needs to approve it. If we select this option, if a request comes, it can be seen by both manager Alina and Chris in their approval requests. If manager Alina approves it, then it will be automatically approved. If Chris approves it, it will automatically approve. The other person don't even need to know. Now we'll see how these options will work in Salesforce. This scenario is little different with the previous scenario. So previous scenario says either it should go to Alina or it should go to Chris based on the conditions. But in here, it should go to set of users or number of users in the same step. It's like a team. Let's say your expenses reaches greater than 10,000. It should go to one team. In that team, it should be accepted by all of them or it should be approved by one of them. So to do that, we should only need one step. So we need to delete one step here. So we cannot delete an existing approval process step. So we need to clone it first. We need deactivate, we'll deactivate and we'll clone it. So we deactivated it and we'll clone it. Okay. So when you clone it, all the approval steps, all the definitions will stay as is. And this is demo 3, but it is multi-users in single step. Multi-user in single step. Okay. There is a difference. Multi-user in a single step. Earlier it was multiple steps in the first place. Each of the step has different user. But here we have only one step. We'll have only one step and we'll have multiple users. So first thing, delete this step. So we have taken out one step here and rest of the definitions will be as is. But in this step, we'll try to add 2 users. So we'll click on edit. Will not mess up with the condition, but it should go to Alina and Chris. Okay. And we'll go to next step. Conditions will stay as is. Next, in here, along with Alina, we can also add multiple users. See, you can add one more user, Chris, and I can select Chris here. Okay. So you can add one more row, one more row, one more row. You can add number of users to accept. This is like a team. So whenever your condition satisfies, it will go to all these users. Now you can decide whether when multiple approvals are selected like this, you can decide whether approve or rejected based on first step or it's like an unanimous. Everyone has to accept it to approve it or only the first person can make it approve. So in our case, first we'll try with unanimous. Okay, which means all of them has to approve it. So I will remove the last 2. So in our team, we have 2 people. So if the condition satisfied, it will go to these 2 people and it has to be unanimous. So both of them has to approve it. So we'll click on save and we have our approval process ready and we can click on activate. Click on activate. Now we have our approval process ready. So it's like the condition is less than or equal to 3 days. Now I'll click on approve leave request. So employee Scott will create a new leave request. So here leave type is equal to casual leave and I will just give it as 17 and 18 and click on save. Now we have created a leave request. We need to submit it. So click on submit. Now it went for approval. Now we'll check with Alina. So this is manager Alina. So we'll check her notifications. This is the new approval request. So we have all our details 17 to 18. This is in pending state. We'll approve it and click on approve. Now as this is an unanimous, this will also go to Chris. That is the reason it is staying in pending state. Now we'll check with Chris. So this is Chris, right? So we'll check with his notifications. Click on this approval request. Now it says pending state. If he approves it, it will get approved. If he rejects it, it will get rejected because this is unanimous. Okay. Now I will click on approve and click on approve. See, we have made this leave request approved by using unanimous multi-users in a single step. Okay. Now we'll try to select the second option. So click on edit and in here, the next step, instead of unanimous, we'll select the other option, which is approve based on the first response. Let's say the leave request goes to both manager Alina and Chris, right? So if one of them approves, it will get approved. If one of them rejects, it will get rejected. So we'll click on save. So we have made the necessary changes in the approval process. Now we'll see whether it is working properly or not. So click on leave request under employee Scott and click on new, a new leave request. Leave type to sick leave and the dates is equal to 11 and end date is equal to 12 and click on save. As the condition satisfies, if we click on submit for approval, it will go for both manager Alina and it will also go to Chris. Let's see whether it has gone for both the users. Under manager Alina, if I click here, so I'm seeing the latest record which is LR0028 and if I go with Chris and I should be seeing that LR0028. So I will click on Chris and I will approve it from here. Okay. So as this is reject or approve based on first response, I have approved it. So this will get approved. If I rejected it, this will get rejected. So manager Alina doesn't need to do anything here. So based on your requirement, either you need to choose unanimous or you need to choose approve or reject based on first response. Scenario 11. Every time user needs to explicitly click on submit for approval. Seems to be not very productive. Is there a way it automatically goes for approval? Yes, there is. There are two ways to submit our record for approval. One, user explicitly clicks on submit for approval button. That's what we are doing so far. And we can also submit our request by using process builder. Let's say whenever a record is inserted or updated, we can send that request automatically to approval by using the process builder. As you have observed, every time Scott logs in, he needs to create leave request and he needs to explicitly click on submit for approval to send it for approval process. So along with this option, we also have another option by using process builder. Let's say if the condition satisfy, immediately it will go to approval rather than user clicking on the submit for approval. Let's say he creates leave request and click on save, immediately it will go for approval. How to do it? That option is there in process builder. So we'll create process builder quickly. So I have made another video on process builder which will have all the options which I have explained it briefly. You can just check it out. I have added that link in the cards on the top and description in the bottom. Okay. Now we'll create a new process builder. So it will ask me the process name. It's like leave request process and I will click on save. Yeah, I need to select one more option. Yeah, process starts when a record changes. So click on save to select object. So I will select object as leave request. I want this to be applied only when a record is created. Okay, whenever a leave request is created, I want this to be going to approval process. Okay, so I click on save. So I have selected the object. Now I need to select the condition. So it's like leaves less than 3. Okay, so this is one condition. I can give the criteria or I can also give the formula like we have did earlier. So the formula, you can just select the field which is end date and you can click on end date, choose, and you also need to give start date, and you can click on choose and less than 3. So this is the formula. If end date minus start date, which is number of leaves less than 3, then we need to do some action. So that action you need to put it here. Okay, so if you people still having doubts, you're not understanding what I'm doing, you can just go ahead with the process builder video first, which I have told you that I have added in the description down below, and then come back here. Okay, now I can click on add action. So in add action type, which action it should happen? So whenever leaves less than 3, then it should go to some action. Which action? That action is called submit for approval. It will give me the approval name. So I need to select the specific approval name. So what is my approval name? I forgot multi-step, I guess, right? Multi-user, I guess it's multi-user. Yeah, this is the latest active. Okay, now action name is call approval process. It's just a name. You can give any name here. You can need to select your approval process name here, and then submission comments, it's not really necessary, and then click on save. Okay, now we have our process builder ready. When a record is inserted, if the leaves are less than 3, then it will call our approval process. That's what this process builder is about. We need to activate this. So we have our active version of process builder ready. Now we are ready to test. So now I will click on leave requests again. I will click on new leave request and I will give some leave type as casual leave. I will just give 19 and 20 and click on save. Rather than clicking on submit for approval now, first of all, if you observe, I don't see submit for approval button now because it's already submitted. And if you click on related, you should be seeing it is pending with both Chris and manager because it is for multi-users. It automatically went for approval. Now I will go ahead and check with manager Alina. If I see it here, I should be seeing the latest record, which is LR0029. If she approves it, as you know, we have selected approve or rejected based on first response. So if she rejects it, it gets rejected. If she accepts it, it gets approved. Okay. So I rejected this. This is the first time I think I rejected. Oh, great. So if I go back here and then refresh this page, I should be seeing this will be getting rejected. See, so this got rejected. See, so if one person rejected, it will go for rejection. Clear? So this is how you can call your approval process from Process Builder. Very, very easy. And that's the wrap up. If you like this video, give a thumbs up, and if you have any questions, comment down below. Practice, 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 and bye.